Get ready.
This is the voice of Wayne America.
Lighten up, Francis.
With your host,
Hi-ho, Kermit the Frog here.
Mike Carnes.
How do you measure yourself with other golfers?
By height.
Only at WayneAmerica.com.
The supernova's gonna kill us all.
Okay, this guy is the real zero, that's true. Let's just think back when you guys were freshmen, huh?
.com.
Greetings and welcome to this week's edition of the Voice of Wayne America podcast here on WayneAmerica.com. I'm Mike Carnes, your host for the big show here every week where we sit down and talk with somebody with some kind of connection to the community of Wayne. And I want to take this moment to thank Providence Medical Center, who's the sponsor of our Voice of Wayne America podcast. And we'll talk a little bit more about Providence Medical Center here during the course of the big show here. You know, it's early March, which means one of three things here in Wayne America. It means the eventual end of winter, the start of March Madness, and the Wayne Area Chamber's annual legislative forum. And on this week's podcast, we're going to talk about the latter of the three. And with us this week is Luke Virgil, the Executive Director of the Wayne Area Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development, which has served as the host of this candidate forum for really almost as long as either one of us has been alive. So, Luke, welcome to the program this week.
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing very good. Survived another week and ready to get another one started here. So.
Right.
The Government Affairs Committee puts this program together each year, and I know that being on the committee, I'm kind of involved in what's going on there. And the committee tries to invite members of the Nebraska legislature to come to Wayne and talk about some of the issues that the legislature is working on during each session. And I know our Senator, Joni Albright, is scheduled to be here and talk a little bit about some of the other senators who are scheduled to be visiting here this week.
Right. So this is the 27th Annual Northeast Nebraska Legislative Forum. It's a co-sponsored event between the Government Affairs Subcommittee for Wayne Area Economic Development, and Wayne State College is our co-sponsor with this. And so it's hosted on Wayne State campus at Gardner Hall. It's in the big auditorium of Gardner Hall. This year we've got a really nice palette of representation from Northeast Nebraska. We've got Senator Albright, who represents District 17, which is Wayne County and Thurston County and Dakota counties. And then we've got Senator Schumacher, who represents the Columbus area. We have Senator Brosh, who represents down towards the Lyons area. And then we have Speaker Scheer, who represents a lot of the Norfolk area and Stanton County. And so the four senators will be here. All of them should be here around 10 o'clock because we have a chamber coffee around 10 at the Gardner Hall atrium. And then at 10:30, we'll start the actual forum, and we've invited local officials from different communities. There's going to be a lot of representation from Wayne State College. And then we've also invited several different students from around the area, their government classes. And we know that we've got Wayne, Ponca, and Wakefield planning on coming over that on Friday as well. And so we hope to have a really nice forum.
And I know over the years, Senator Brosh has been a pretty constant presence at this forum. And then, of course, the representative from our area, Senator Bloomfield, before Senator Albright, and now Senator Albright. And I know Senator Scheer's been here on occasion, and I think this is Senator Schumacher's second appearance. And I know having the Speaker of the Legislature in attendance is really a nice thing to have, because he really has kind of the I guess had the biggest finger on the pulse of the state as far as the 49 senators are concerned, and
right.
And then Senator Schumacher, I think, is kind of a somewhat of a colorful personality as well. So
right.
So I think getting those four senators, I think it's going to be a very entertaining and educational forum.
I think so too. We always know that Senator Albright represents our district very well, and she's always very well spoken. So I have high confidence that she'll keep the faith with that. And then with Senator Brosh, she's very similar. That they're both very well spoken ladies. But like you said, Senator Schumacher, he's kind of a colorful personality. And when you get down to the legislature, they've nicknamed him the professor. He's always got these very high intelligence discussions, and some of his bills are some of the most high thought process bills. It's just always fascinating to listen to his thought process and to listen to his debate, because it is on a different wavelength. It's beyond my intelligence, and but I think that he'll add some different flair to our forum discussion this Friday. And like you said, Senator Scheer has a very different perspective. I mean, he's served in the legislature for, I think this is his 7th or 8th year.
Yeah.
And it's his second year as the speaker, it's a much different tone coming out of him. He's got to keep everybody on task, and when there's 49 different senators running around, or 48 minus him, they've all got a different agenda. They've all got different masters to serve, different perspectives, whether it's urban or rural, or sometimes the fight across the aisle has gotten a little bit more interesting the last few years. But Senator Scheer gets to be the one to kind of corral them all and keep them on task and say, all right, we are doing X, Y, and Z. And I think that's why those priority bill designations are so important throughout the years, because it does give him a chance to say, okay, you said at this point, this is your priority, so let's keep on task with that.
Yeah. And he's, being a teacher, that training has probably served him well as a speaker.
I think so.
Being able to keep everybody in the room and keep everybody on task like that.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting mix of candidates here that we've got. And I think didn't Senator Schumacher have a bill that was going to create a city a new city out west that?
Yeah, it was.
I remember reading something about that.
It was a strange type of bill, and it was more. I think a lot of people just checked it off as probably never going to happen. But I think he's getting towards the end of his tenure, and he's like, I've had this idea. Like I said, he thinks on a different wavelength than most people, and I don't want to say that's a bad thing. I think that you need some bold ideas to come out every once in a while to see, test the waters. And who knows what'll come of that bill. My hunch is it's probably not going to get too far in as far as floor debate. But stranger things have happened. When you look at floor debate, like I said, those priority bills are probably going to command most of the attention, and a lot of the issues this year are going to be related to the tax shortfall that was kind of predicted at the beginning of the session. They had the tax board come out with a forecast at the end of February, and it was not nearly as bad as they projected. They thought that they might get maybe another $50 million back on the original 220 shortfall. But that's still commanding how the discussions are being handled down in Lincoln is, what are we going to do with this shortfall? And there's a lot of changes that have occurred with the federal tax bill that was passed at the end of December, and so there's some residual effect of that has influenced some of the discussion. I think that if I look at my notes here, we've got LB 1090, which is addressing that federal tax overhaul. There's some people in the chamber that believe that needs to be neutralized so that the Nebraskans paying taxes don't have a bigger hit this time for the tax amount that they have to pay. There's some people on the other side of the coin that would say we should keep that in place because that would shore up the $220 million shortfall that we have, or whatever it was. And they think that federal windfall would be in that 220 range. So that's one thing that's going to be very heavily discussed throughout the rest of the session. LB 947 is the governor's tax plan. They're not sure if it's ever going to get off the ground or get any floor debate, but it's something that the governor was hoping to see happen. That includes some of the budget cuts that would take place at Wayne State College or the university system. Both of those have gotten a lot of press, and a lot of other agencies would take some hits too. So there's some good and bad with that 947, and they've been trying to work through that and make it work for everybody. And then another big one is LB 44. This came out in the introduction during 2017, but it was carried over, and it was a priority by Senator Watermeyer, and this is imposing a sales tax requirement for internet sales in the state of Nebraska. Federal law and what has happened at the Supreme Court level has stated you have to have a physical presence in a state to be able to collect sales tax. And so there's some people on one side of LB 44 that feel that this is just an unconstitutional bill from the get-go. But there is also a case at the Supreme Court level that's going to be argued in April, and they'll probably have a decision by the end of June. And that could, change the federal stance on internet sales taxes. And so that might influence whether or not this bill can actually hold up over time if it would get passed. So those are there's taxes is always a big issue, and how it affects The property tax payer is a big thing too, and these bills all have kind of that overarching feeling of we need to help the property tax issue out at the local level.
Yeah, the property tax issue is something that's been discussed about quite a bit, and especially in the rural area. It sounds like a lot of rural landowners are really taking a hit year after year with the way the property tax system is set up in the state. But getting back to internet sales, I think that's something that has needed to be addressed for a long time, and I know. Anybody who makes a purchase online, and I think I'm sure you probably made some internet purchases in your time. I know I've made one. In fact, I just bought my granddaughter's birthday present last night online, and I know that that has had an impact on the brick and mortar businesses here in the state, and these online entities don't some of them do charge or sales tax for a particular state, and I think if I remember looking at my invoice last night, I think Amazon might be doing that with Nebraska now too.
I think
some of these companies are starting to go ahead and charge these sales taxes, knowing that the possibility of it becoming law is
right.
Happening.
Right. I think it was about sometime last year that Amazon made the commitment to start, if there was a state sales tax that needed to be enforced, they would be collecting that and distributing it back to those states. And it's a tough call. I mean, there's a lot of people that like the convenience of online shopping, and for a long time they've been able to get, in some sense, get away with not paying sales tax. But if you read the Nebraska sales tax code, if you're a true believer in paying taxes, you will report those internet sales that you've been a part of throughout the year, and you'll actually pay some sales tax during the tax return or tax season this time of year. I know there's a lot of people that don't do that, but there is an expectation by the state, and I think that's what a lot of the proponents behind LB 44 have kind of said. There's a ton of people that are out there. They know that they should be paying a sales tax, but they're not. Mm-hmm. So if we can compel the actual people that are selling the stuff to tack that sales tax on, it's going to be better for the state of Nebraska. They think that they're really losing out on quite a bit of revenue by not having that mandatory sales tax. And like I said, a lot of it's going to be dictated by what the United States Supreme Court does this spring and with their decision in late June. And that's going to predicate everything for the entire nation. And there's some people that have been watching that case, and they think that there could be no real direction from the federal level, and that might just make it murkier than it already is. Yeah. But the standing precedent is that you need to have a brick and mortar facility in the state to be able to enforce sales taxes, and that might change at the federal level. But for right now, Nebraska's trying to get a little more revenue and to make it a little bit more fair playing field for our brick and mortars and like our downtown Main Street folks and the internet sales guys. Yeah, I think the expectation or the assumption, I guess, would be as a consumer, I think that the consumer is so used to like the brick and mortar businesses when we do our shopping there, they charge the sales tax right there, and I think there's the assumption that that the business is going to do that regardless, and so that's probably why they don't. A lot of people don't report the sales taxes that they basically get by with not paying. Right. A lot of it, it's out of sight, out of mind. If it's not at the end of the receipt, like it would be when I buy something downtown, then I just don't need to worry about it.
Right.
But that's. You can claim ignorance on a lot of that stuff, but there are some people that outright just avoid it because there's not a lot of enforcement on it either, yeah. and that's puts the state in a tough predicament because the state government as a tax collector and the revenue that they use is primarily income and sales tax. Mm-hmm. The state doesn't get a lot of property tax revenue, and that primarily goes to the local entities like your school districts, your counties, and your cities, and some of the other taxing authorities like the Ag Society or the NRD or your fire districts. Those are your primary property tax generate. Oh, and I forgot, community colleges. They get some property taxes as well. Mm-hmm. So, but the state, they're reliant on sales and income tax.
Yeah, and I know just kind of one last thing on this on the legislature. I know the University of Nebraska has been targeted by Governor Ricketts quite a bit on this budget stuff, and I know one of the things that the university is looking at doing is closing down the ag facility out by Concord, which I considering Nebraska is so reliant on agriculture. I think that's like cutting off an arm or or a leg to save $1 million, and that just doesn't just doesn't make sense to me, and would be, I think, would be a terrible thing to see something like that closed up here, especially in this area.
Well, and I think that for our area, it's another economic driver, and so it's a presence that the university has that a lot of people don't maybe understand is necessary. I mean, when I was reading through some of the discussion about whether or not they will close Haskell, and it hasn't been decided yet. It's a proposed cut. But they look at the age of the facility and the services they're providing, and when I sit there, I say, yeah, it's an older facility, but what has the university done over the last 20-30 years to try and update that facility? And I'm sure that the local folks have been doing everything that they can to try and keep that facility updated, but if it doesn't get on the master plan for the university system, they're kind of in a tough spot. And then if you look at the number of counties that they're serving, I think I read somewhere that they serve 28 counties. That's an incredible footprint. And when you look at the land grant mission of the university system, that's a huge area that's going to lose a lot of representation in that system and lose a lot of services from that system as well. So I think it'd be a really tough blow for yes, Wayne and Laurel and Concord specifically, but I think that the larger area in northeast Nebraska is going to see a pretty significant loss of services because of that if Haskell Ag Lab would be shut down. But I can also see the university side. Yeah, you look at it, there's an aging facility. They see it as maybe a potential to cut a looming budget issue that they don't want to have to reinvest in over the next 10 years. And so, not to say that it's a good thing, but I can understand why that might have been put on the chopping block from the university's perspective. And I think that maybe there's some politics going on at the same time too. I think that the university is being proactive, but they're also trying to show, whether it's the senators making the decisions in Lincoln, or the people that this would be affected by in northeast Nebraska, or this whole state of Nebraska, because NU touches most of the state. They're trying to tell those people, look at what you will lose if this budget situation goes into effect. And I think the state colleges are in the same position, where they're going to be at a losing perspective if something isn't changed with what was proposed for the budget cuts at all the the higher ed institutions in the state. And so I think maybe they're trying to be, the university's trying to be proactive. Look what you could lose if you don't help us out. Yeah. And so I think that state of Nebraska has always been very highly ranked as far as education. We take a lot of dollars out of the state budget and put it towards education, whether it's the higher education with Wayne State College and the other college system schools, or if it's University of Nebraska-Lincoln and the other NU system schools at Kearney and UNO and UNL. But if you really look at, I was trying to think where I'm going with this one. But I mean, education is a huge part of our budget, and I think that there's a lot of other states where education is not as important. So it's a tough blow to stomach, but we are still one of the better states as far as education funding pound for pound. Yeah,
and I think there's been such a concern for a long time in this state about the quote unquote brain drain. Kids who grow up here in Nebraska and then either go to school at one of the state colleges or the university, and then take their education and go to Missouri or go to some other state and get out of Nebraska, and that's that kind of comes back to the potential for revenue generation that gets lost.
Well, and I think that's another one of the arguments that Wayne State College and the state college system, and then the entire the NU system, they're very adamant to point out that if you take away the state funding for these institutions, inevitably tuition is going to have to go up. Mm-hmm. And if these colleges have a mission that they're trying to reach out to more and more individuals in the state, I know Wayne State has a pretty progressive mission of trying to get to as many students as they can, regardless of what their financial status might be or what their background is. They're really trying to reach college education for a lot of different people, and that will be impacted significantly if the tuition has to go up because they want it to be accessible. Mm-hmm. And I think that's been an argument that has come out from both the state colleges and the university system. They're very adamant that we want to have accessible and affordable education, and when tuition goes up, that's in peril. And there's some people that somebody had this argument to me. If you increase tuition, that's a direct assessment against those people that want to go to college. If you leave it coming from the state and you feel that the state should have a strong subsidization of education as a whole, then the entire state is paying for it and the entire state gets a benefit from it. And so, there's no guarantee on that, but that's kind of the argument. And I think that that's a good argument because, we as a state, we want to have highly educated people. We want people to be we want people to feel like they can move across the state, across classes, whatever it might be. If you think that education is your ticket to a better life, we want to be able to offer that in the state of Nebraska.
Yeah, boy, I'll tell you what, if the senators, the forum can be as informed as we've talked about here, there should be an interesting forum on Friday.
I think they are. I mean, I think that's you talk to those folks. We've been down, Wayne Area Economic Development has been down in Lincoln about 3 times throughout the month of February. We were down for the State Chamber Banquet at the beginning of the month. We were down for Leadership Wayne about a week after the State Chamber Banquet. And then the end of the month, we had our Northeast Nebraska Chamber Day. And so 3 separate times we were able to engage with our state senators and with some of the other cabinet members from across the state and try and engage them and say, this is the issues that we're facing. And just try and help them understand how they can help us. And it's interesting to see how well informed they are on the issues and, the amount of time that a lot of them spend in their office or in the chamber down in Lincoln arguing these issues and researching these issues. And it's a tough job. I mean, I think it's they need to be applauded and thanked for being down there, but somebody's got to do it, right? Exactly.
We're talking with Luke Virgil from Wayne Area Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development here on Voice of Wayne America podcast. I wanted to take a moment to talk about Providence Medical Center in Wayne. They are proud to announce the addition of a new surgical procedure that they now offer at the hospital called shoulder arthroscopy. The surgical procedure is for those who have rotator cuff injuries where the surgeon inserts a tiny camera and the necessary instruments through a small incision in the shoulder rather than doing an open procedure with large incisions. Dr. Joseph Caro specializes in orthopedic surgery for Providence Medical Center. He is the team physician for Wayne State Athletics and also offers his expertise at multiple high schools in the area. For more information, check out Providence Medical Center's website at www.providencemedical.com. That's Providence Medical Center, extraordinary care rooted in compassion. Kind of closing things down here on this week's Voice of Wayne America podcast, talking with Luke Virgil from Wayne Area Chamber and Economic Development, talking about the Chamber's annual legislative forum that will be happening Friday morning at 10:30 on the campus of Wayne State College at Gardner Hall, at the lecture hall there in the Gardner building. And, of course, the Chamber Coffee will be happening before that at 10 o'clock there in the atrium. But the one thing about this that I enjoy seeing even more than the senators coming here is the fact that several schools here every year have bring a bunch of kids to these forums, and I think that's really important for these kids to kind of get an idea as they leave the comforts of home and go out into the real world to kind of get an idea of what the real world's like as far as the legislature and the laws that are being considered and the things that they're looking into at the legislative level. And I think it's great to have these students coming in from Wayne, and I think Ponca and Wakefield are also coming. Correct. So I think it'd be really neat opportunity for these kids to kind of see their government officials at a human level and be able to interact with them.
Right, and I mean that's what we hope for with this forum, is that it kind of gets those government students from area schools engaged in what the process is like and what state government is all about. Even when we went to the Leadership Wayne trip in early February, we invited some students from Wayne High School, and Mr. Johnson was able to send about 5 or 6 students plus his student teacher this year to that trip. And that, I think the kids enjoyed that. I mean, it's fun for them to get out of school, of course, and go on a trip to Lincoln. But I think that being in those sessions that we go to, it helps give them a different perspective, because they got to hear from some of the staff at Senator Albright's office, the legal aide for the Business and Labor Committee. She was able to sit and talk with them and talk about her career path, what led her to get into law school, and what led her to get working at the Capitol as an intern, or as a page, is what they call them, and what motivated her to pursue that career and working for the state capitol and the different entities in the Capitol. So I think that's another, this forum provides that for the kids as well, to see, pursue. There's a lot of different career opportunities related to state government, and listening to the state senators, you hear a lot about some of the issues that are commanding the attention of the legislature, but some of the greater paradigm issues of the state. And so if you're informed on those issues, you can kind of help that. That can help you direct your career path, and maybe they get passionate about something when they're a junior or senior in high school, and that's what propels them all the way through college and into a good career. And so that's just hoping to expose them to that different world. And it's something that when I was in college, I actually have been going to this legislative forum for a long time, even when I was in college at Wayne State, and have always thought it was a really nice event, and now I get to help coordinate it, which is kind of an interesting turn of fate. But it really, I hope that not only does the public and a lot of our high school students that have confirmed that they're going to be trying to be here, I hope that there's students on Wayne State campus that are willing to come out and see this forum in action. And I know Friday morning you might be more preference towards sleeping in or getting through that last class before you can get out of town for the weekend. But it's I think state government's important, and it's important to understand how that affects all of them as students or the local governments that they could represent as well. Exactly. And so we just hope that people want to come out and enjoy the opportunity to speak with the senators. And you don't, because of the format of the forum, you don't get to speak directly to them, but there might be some time afterwards to maybe catch them and say, I really want to follow up on this question because it's really important to me. And I think that's what the senators are looking forward to, is that chance to follow up and really have a discussion with the constituents, and that they enjoy coming to these things. When we've talked with Senator Albright, she's like, "Oh yes, I've been looking forward to this." It's something that she's done every year that she's been in the state legislature, and she actually attended before that when she was campaigning, just to kind of get a taste of what the people of Wayne County are needing, and how she could help if she would have gotten elected. And now that she is elected, she's been working really hard to help our district. So.
Yeah, it'll be a great opportunity to talk with these state senators, and they'll be here Friday at 10:30 for the legislative forum on Gardner Hall on the campus of Wayne State College. And I know with the construction going on there, seating and parking is going to be at a premium there, because it's
correct.
The parking lot is now a building under construction. So
right.
So
I think your best bet's probably lot 10 and take a hike up the hill to Gardner.
So. Get your morning workout in there.
Exactly.
All right. Well, Luke, thanks a lot for talking with us on the program this week, and we look forward to the forum on Friday.
All right. Thanks a lot, Mike.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's edition of Voice of Wayne America here on WayneAmerica.com. And again, I want to thank Luke Virgil from Wayne Area Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development for talking with us today, and also thank our sponsors at Providence Medical Center for their support of the program. We'll have another edition of Voice of Wayne America here next week on WayneAmerica.com. Until then, we will talk to you later. Have a good week.